Hi friends, I'm very shiny because I just put moisturizer on my face because I just got out of the shower, as maybe you can tell. But today is just gonna be like a day in my life working on this personal project that I have been working on because again, I thought it would be good today to have an accountability partner, so I spend my day actually working on this 100% instead of working on it a bit and then being like, no, I'm gonna nap and stuff, which is what I should be doing as like a normal human being, but I'm crazy, so I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna work on this instead. So my personal project that I'm working on is I'm building a neural network. I'm attempting to build a neural network. I am working on a video of me working on the actual full project, so that's gonna be up on my YouTube if I'm successful at all. But anyways, but I basically yeah, I've been building a neural network, but I'm trying to I'll give a little bit. I'm trying to study something that is really personal to me, which is dissociative disorders, and I want to see if maybe they're impacted by something called hippocampal sharp wave ripples, and which are like a clocking mechanism in the brain. I'm trying to see if I throw that off, it's going to basically create the symptoms that I am trying to study. The thing about neural networks is that you actually have to build everything from the ground up, like in a really intense. I didn't know it was gonna be so like DIY, and I don't actually have any like I didn't take a class, I didn't do anything. I'm just teaching myself using ChatGPT and just learning reading. I'm gonna be doing some reading today actually, but anyways, that's the project that I'm working on right now. I thought it was just gonna be like, hey, this is fun. I'm gonna try this, and it's gonna be an interesting thing. No, no, it has been the most intense thing I've ever done in my life. And I feel like I've been having to grapple with so many elements of what it means to be a human being, like, what it means for me to have this disorder. And I think been having to pull so much from my own experience, and in pulling from my own experience and unpacking my mind and how it works, it's also been bringing up my memories and my experiences that I haven't really 100% dealt with to deal with. And it's also been like just a really intense challenge for me to also like confront my own limiting beliefs, my own like sense of my own intelligence. Am I capable enough to do this? And all sorts of different it's been like extremely intense every single day, and I was just grappling with it so much yesterday and what I was trying to build, and just was like, oh my god, I feel like I'm dying. And it's been really really intense for me. I actually love working on it, but for some reason it's just extremely intense in every possible way. So with that in mind, I actually was gonna like do this like the second I woke up and make it like a full day in my life, but I actually woke up really late because I worked till 1 in the morning last night, and I got back at like 3 in the morning because I have to take the bus because the trains don't run at night. I woke up late, and then I had to have my very last meeting for meeting with a participant for my research study that I'm also working on right now. So yeah, so it's about 3 right now, and I'm eating lunch finally. I'm eating This is pad thai that I got on Uber Eats last night at my job, and I just reheated it because I don't have the energy to cook yet. And I'm basically just gonna first of all give my room a little bit of a clean, and then I think today what I really want to get done, I'm actually at the point where I've gotten like a really pretty like I feel like a pretty solid conceptual framework of what I want to do. And all I need to do now is just start to try to run the code and start to see if it works, if there's something I need to change. And but that I'm not actually like writing the code myself because I don't have the experience. I've been working on ChatGPT. I'm not a big ChatGPT person, which I talk about in the video that I'm making, but I really wanted to get this project done, and that was the only way I could do it because I'm not an expert. So basically, I have the code sort of set up for me. Doesn't mean that it's gonna run perfectly. I know ChatGPT can have issues, and also that maybe my idea is gonna have flaws, and I'm gonna have to go back and do more conceptual thinking, like sort of framework thinking about this project. But basically, I'm at the point where I just need to learn how to put everything into the program I'm using, which is called Nengo. And that I think this is probably going to be the most challenging part because it's going to involve me doing something completely outside of my comfort zone and really foreign. And I'm already having some bumps along the road, like just trying to learn how to just, on the most simplest of levels, just use Nengo. But I think that if I can get over that hump and just get it to start running, like then I can actually start figuring things out. So yeah, so I'm eating my pad thai. And today I really just want to read a little bit. I saved some like research articles that I think would be useful for me to read, and I've emailed them to myself. So I'm gonna download them on my iPad. So there's gonna be a reading segment of this vlog. Yeah, and you're also gonna see me just hanging out probably and um doing a lot of snacking.
Love play that shit, boy. La la la. Yeah. La 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 la. La la. Don't be afraid, baby. La 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 la. La la la. La la la. Open your legs.
Oh my gosh, look at how cute she. I didn't set the pillows up like this. She did this. She actually set up the pillows like a cave. Okay, first ice cream of the day as we go into reading. But I wanted to talk about something that I have been learning as I go through this project. It's probably been my biggest lesson yet. I think that when the world has something to teach you on like the deepest of levels, it will trigger you 1 million times until you can learn the lesson. This whole project started because I didn't feel believed when I went to try to talk about my experiences, and then I ran into the science. The science didn't believe me. I ran into, and then I went along and I tried to, you know, do this project. And I think like I tried a million times to talk about my idea, to get into programs related to this. I was rejected, or people didn't really feel like they saw the value, or people were like, are you sure you really want to go into that field? And things like that. I ran into it a million times, and I feel like I just had 1 million opportunities to doubt myself. But I think that but I knew, like, I feel like I just knew what I had experienced. I knew like myself, and I think that I knew that this was what I needed to get into. And one time, actually, before I moved to London, I actually did this higher self meditation that I'll link below. It's my favorite one. And this was like right after I finished my bachelor's degree program. And as I was deep into this meditation, I felt like deep in my soul, I felt I'm a neuroscientist. And I didn't have the experience at all to think that. I didn't have I hadn't gotten experience in this, but I guess I had been already intuitively thinking a lot about how my mind worked, and I had been writing something that was already leaning into that. And I just felt it on the deepest of levels. And actually, that's when I went downstairs in this hostel that I was staying in Brazil, with my mom and my sister, and I started looking up research studies. And that same day, I actually found and wrote down the name of the research study that ended up responding to me and saying, yes, you can move here and work with us. And so I feel like I went along and I was like, okay, now I feel really called to this, and I'm seeing why I'm called to this. And it didn't mean right away that things went right for me. It didn't. I feel like I got rejected so many times, and I feel like just had so many opportunities and I think I just felt frustration because I felt like I'm seeing something about me and I'm seeing something about the world, and it feels like people aren't listening or believing, or I feel like people are looking at me and thinking I'm crazy. And those are the exact same emotions I experienced having gone through the trauma in the way that I did, and and trying to share it, in certain contexts I was believed and understood. But I think that the point is that I think that as I went along, I learned that I had to trust myself, my narrative, my experience of my life, and what I was seeing about myself and knew about myself. I had to trust it on the deepest of levels, and I had to give up the idea that other people were going to be the one to validate for me, or to understand me, or to tell me who I was. And you're going to get rejected 1 million times, but you have to keep having that faith in yourself, and you have to keep believing yourself. You have to keep believing your story, your experience, and the way you see the world. And as I went along that path, I found an avenue for me to explore this idea on my own, and to not have to look for people's approval of if I was doing this project right, if my experience was right, if I was good enough to be in neuroscience, if I was good enough to explore an idea in neuroscience. And I just think that when you're getting triggered by something a million times, it means that you have to learn the lesson. I had to learn the lesson myself that I'm not crazy, that I'm not, I'm not seeing the world wrong, that I understand myself, that I understand what I'm seeing, that I'm intelligent, that I know myself well enough to do this, and that I should leap into things and trust myself and my voice. And yeah, I just think that that's been the lesson that I had to learn, and to stop looking for other people to tell me who I am, because other people don't know me as well as me. Other people don't know my experience as well as I know my experience. I'm seeing my experience on the deepest of levels, and I need to trust my voice, And I think that that's just been so valuable. So if you're getting triggered by something 1 million times and it just feels like everywhere you turn, you're getting rejected, everywhere you turn, you're getting frustrated, everywhere you turn, people are responding to you in this way, it's because you need to learn the lesson and surpass those emotions, and you need to stop waiting for other people to be the one to fix it for you. Okay, here's on my busted iPad that I need to get fixed. Here's all of these texts that I saved that were related to what I'm reading. So here's the first thing we're reading. I'm gonna go ahead and I think I'm gonna go one by one, but I'm just gonna try to do as much reading as I can. I'm gonna set a little timer and just have a reading moment. I can't. I have to study. Let me give you guys my tips on how to learn like things that you just have never learned before. And that seem outside of your comfort zone. This is actually, from what I'm understanding, exactly how the AI learns too, ironically. So even AI is using these tips. But okay, let me show you, I don't understand a lot of this, okay? But what am I gaining from reading this text is that I'm learning, I'm like, I think that it's really important to start to integrate like a framework of what's going on in the field that you're interested in. So what I'm learning something like deeper, something more like, there's a sort of history to this type of machine learning. There's different types, okay? There's conventional machine learning models. What else do we have here? I'm learning that there's such thing as supervised learning and unsupervised learning. And then, I feel like I'm just learning that there's a history, and I'm learning that there's different types of machine learning that are going to do different things. And then I think also, I think when you get into little pieces that you don't understand, don't worry. Just try to keep reading and try to keep internalizing as like bigger pieces of information. And then you're going to have more information with which to learn the next bit of things that you read. And you're going to go on learning like that. I've learned a lot like that. I'm also learning what I don't know, because as I'm reading this, I'm starting to get a vocabulary. I think that's the important thing, is that you start to learn a sort of vocabulary for what you care about. And then what I'm going to do is that now I have this information, I'm going to go in later and I'm going to say, okay, now that I know these words, let me go into Nengo now and let me learn more about Nengo, watch YouTube videos, learn, like, for example, is Nengo, like, my questions, is it unsupervised learning or is it supervised learning? I didn't even know that I didn't know that this was a difference. So now I'm going to go into Nengo and learn this, and now I have more information to sort of understand what I'm doing. So it's not important. I think a lot of people get intimidated because you go in and you think, oh my God, I don't know every word. I don't know every word of what I'm reading, but I'm still learning a lot. So it's more about just keep having confidence and keep reading, and just start to unpack like what you can and get sort of big chunks of information and get like a vocabulary together. I always, if when the article says the focus of the article, I always make sure that I highlight that, because I think that it's more important that you have like almost like a rooted sense of like the concepts that are going to be spoken about, rather than getting caught up on each and every word. Now already this has helped me a lot, because I'm seeing what I'm looking for and trying to understand, which is I'm thinking that Nengo uses spiking neural networks, because I know here that's talking about bioplausible neural architectures, which is part of Nengo. So then I think it's just more important that you start to like really create your own vocabulary for what you're trying to understand. Let me show you what isn't important to me. Here they're talking about how
like kind of more the mechanics, compact and resource efficient on chip learning platforms. I can ignore all of that. It's interesting, but I don't need to, it's confusing for me, and it doesn't have to do with like my central project. So I don't need to feel like guilty for not understanding all of the details of that because it's not relevant to me. So I'm not gonna sit here and focus on that. Now, let me show you a moment I would use ChatGPT. This is the it started with me trying to get a book explained, but this is like the little tab that I've kept open for my entire project. But okay, so I looked up is Nengo supervised or unsupervised learning, and it pulled up a page from Nengo explaining unsupervised learning. So I did actually start to think, then I guess you can do both, but I wasn't quite sure. So I asked, I feel like that's I will go to every length to not use ChatGPT before I say, okay, I'm gonna use ChatGPT because it's not that great for the environment. So I want to make sure that I'm using it like sustainably as I can. But okay, so it did tell me here you can use both types. So that's an important thing for me to know for my project because I need to know, is my project going to have unsupervised or supervised learning, and why is that like important, you know? Well, it did tell me here that I should use unsupervised learning, which makes sense because I'm trying to do a biologically plausible kind of project, and we don't use supervised learning in our brain. Okay, I'm on my Pomodoro break, so let me show you like how I'm doing this work right now. So let me show you, I feel like it's really important for me to like, I think that the point, look how I've not read that much yet, but I'm learning intense amounts, and I feel like the intention is more just to pick up information. So as you can see, I did a good amount of looking things up as I went along. So I learned about single layer neural networks. I learned about MNIST dataset. I don't think I understand that as well enough yet. I finally looked up what neuromorphic meant, and that this was pretty interesting to me, that it's basically what I'm trying to do. So an approach to computing inspired by the structure and function of the human brain, which is what Nengo is. Nengo is basically a neural network that's inspired by the hippocampus, so it's supposed to be very biologically accurate. Now, let me show you guys. So I went through and I wrote all of this vocabulary that I've been learning. We have everything here. And that's been pretty helpful because it's giving me, like, it's just showing me how much I've learned just in reading 2 pages. So I've learned really about spike timing dependent plasticity, like clustering, associations. Now, here's where it gets like interesting, is that, okay, so what ChatGPT was telling me, that I should be using this type of mechanism in my neural network that I'm building. It's basically guiding me to build the neural network. But I read that it's basically usually only used for single layer networks. So more like small scale things. So this is why you gotta do your own reading and understand what you're doing instead of just relying on ChatGPT, because then I could have the insight to ask GPT like, okay, why are you asking me to do that if it's only used in single layer networks? And it did explain. I still have to think about whether I think that's gonna be good, you know, like appropriate. So it already went ahead and told me why it makes sense in my project. So it basically, we think the hippocampus uses this type of mechanism. My network isn't a standard deep neural network. I will say, yeah, what I'm trying to build is not going to be like to the depth of something like ChatGPT, you know, where it has to learn a bunch of things all the time. I'm basically going to be telling it like memories to learn and it's going to have to sort of give them back to me and see if it's still like intact. So maybe it really isn't sort of that deep of a learning that it needs to do. And then, so it's telling me all these reasons why it still thinks that I should use it, and how to use it beyond the 1 layer. I need to not let ChatGPT just boss me around on my project, and I need to know what I'm talking about so I can be certain that I'm doing what needs to be done and I'm doing something that's appropriate, because you just never know, like, you know, I mean, I probably will end up using it still. It was still pretty convincing, but I think that it's more like I just need to make sure that I'm aware of all of the mechanisms that are going into my project, rather than just being like, okay, well, ChatGPT said that's right. You know, like, I need to have my own sort of expertise and intuition for my project. So that's why it's important that we don't only use AI and that you do your own reading as well. So yeah, it's been an interesting balance. Here's a takeaway from a section that I do not understand, okay? So they're going into all these things. The vanilla implementation of the k-means algorithm calculates the Euclidean distance between points for, okay, so I don't understand like every detail. What I do understand, which I also learned from watching a YouTube video, okay, that there's math done from point to point in these algorithms, and that math is going to have different sort of learning outputs, different sort of methods of learning that are going to be done through the math. Okay, I don't understand the math 100%. I understand how it's done. I don't understand the math. I don't understand the exact input from each different type of learning. It does not matter to me right now, but it's a basis, right? It's a basis for me to learn, and later I can learn more, but it's not relevant to me right now in this stage of my learning. But just don't get put off by what you don't know. Like, just get as much of as you can from it, and just allow what you do learn from other parts to start filtering into these parts at later times. Okay, this is my last Pomodoro break for this video. So, like the Gilmore Girls video. So I've been studying for about an hour and a half. Let me show you. So I read up until about here. I learned a lot of information from reading this, about this entire concept, because I was sort of researching on the side as I went along. You can see I highlighted, like, this is something I thought maybe I could read. It might be a good thing for me to read. Or, like, there's, like, vocabulary, things I want to come back to. Okay. Now, let me show you. I actually skipped, when it got into the actual mathy stuff, I didn't read any of it, because right now I'm focused on learning the concepts, and I'm not going to understand this. I think it's important to just have this attitude of, like, you are in command of your learning and what you're trying to understand, and not feel like the information is in charge of you, or, like, in command of you. Like, you are in control. You can choose what you want to learn. You can choose what you want to take from something. You don't have to read something and feel like, oh, I have to know every single word to be, like, smart, or to, like, understand what I'm doing. Like, know what you're looking for, and you can use the text however you want. You don't have to use the text to say, oh, I have to learn everything about this, because you're not going to get as much from it. That's how I'm learning really, really fast, because I'm not going into this thinking, I have to now sit here for 10 hours and unpack every single last word to understand this. This is not important to me. What's important to me is me learning, like, the abstract concepts, and learning how this works, and learning why that might be important to my project. So I've made the executive decision, as the one in charge of my own research, that I'm not going to care about this, and I'm not going to read this, and it's not going to say anything about whether I understand the text. And then I went and I jumped straight to the conclusion, and I saw what is their conclusion. I don't have an Apple Pencil, so it's not very good highlighting, but okay, cool, interesting. So now I learned everything that I feel like I need to learn, and I feel extremely more educated about what I'm learning, and now it's time to move on to another text. It's very quickly starting to pay off, because I learned the word perceptron in I didn't even learn it in the last text. I learned it reading, trying to understand what a single layer network was. So now I know the word perceptron.
I genuinely don't understand how my videos get this grainy, but we're taking a little bit of a study break. So I've been watching this movie called Purple Hearts, or Purple Heart or something, that I started at work yesterday, because I'm always watching the dumbest, like, just the most, like, random movie I've ever watched in my life at work, and I didn't get to finish it. I'm kind of invested in the romance. At the same time, I'm like, the military propaganda in that movie is just like, wow. It's like clearly written to, like, recruit people into the military. Like, there's, like, this liberal girl, and she's just like, she's got, like, an undocumented mom. She's, like, half Latina, and then the guy is, like, this Trump supporter guy who keeps, like, being mad at her for being a liberal. But then it's like, she suddenly, after talking to him, like, over these letters, she's, like, now supporting the military, and, like, she's, like, seen the error in her ways, and now she's, like, all into it. I don't know, but I got kind of invested, I'm not gonna lie. I wish that wasn't an element, but I'm just gonna, in my study break, show you guys things that I've like purchased recently. I forgot that I had these and they were in my bag, but the other day I was like, I haven't spent money on myself in so long. And I just got, oh, because I'd been working so much. I was like, I just got the random urge to just buy random things. And I went to the store and I saw these little hair things. I thought they were so cute. And I was like, why would I buy these? Am I gonna wear them? But I just felt like I imagined actually getting these things for like my daughter because I'm gonna have a if I have a daughter, she's obviously gonna be rich because I'm gonna be rich, not billionaire rich, but you know we're gonna be comfortable. But I just saw these and I was like, oh, if I had like a rich little daughter, I would buy these for them. But then I was like, you know what? I should be my own rich little daughter and I should have my own rich little inner child. And so then I felt compelled to buy these. But look how cute they are. I felt like I was healing my inner child because I was like my inner child, I grew up poor, or like, you know, we didn't have like a bunch of money for extra things. We had like cute stuff. My mom would always get us cute stuff too. But I'm just saying that I just like imagined myself like in this like upper class upbringing, and like I feel like my inner child would just appreciate it. But oh, look how cute these are. I'm gonna show you the other ones I got. Look how cute these are. Oh my gosh. They just made my inner child feel like bougie. I don't know if I'll ever even wear these, but they just made me feel like, oh, it's a little bird. So cute. I am gonna wear them so I can feel like a little rich girl. And then I was so obsessed with fairies as a kid. And I'm actually disappointed because I thought these were just gonna be plain stickers. I was like, oh, I'll paint my nails and like put them on there because I loved fairies. But they're just these little fairy nail stickers, but I'll show them to you. Man, it's like, oh, they're made for little kid nails, but I'm still gonna paint my nails and just put them on the top as like a little like French dip, just to say that I did it. But they just made me happy. I was like, I feel like little kid me would love. This is the kind of thing my mom would buy me as a kid, I think. My mom was always buying me like cutesy little stuff like this. Like, I was really into fairies. She bought me like a little fairy like catching kit. I don't know. But it just made me feel like I want to paint my nails and like do little girly stuff. Look how cute they are. I was wondering if they were gonna match my hair color, but they do. I just thought they were very like rich girl because look at the little packaging with the little gold heart. It's so cute. Look at that. I love it. Okay, back to work.
Here is what I was making. Look at that. So this is like a lot right now. Basically, I think the point of this is actually a really amazing text right now that's explaining everything that I needed to understand, and it went into some of the biology. And so I drew the picture that they drew, and I wrote down how they explained each and every part. Now, here's my like study method. Is that for me, I feel like I read something and I don't always understand it right away, but I start to recognize like interconnecting ideas. Like I remember hearing about a lot of these things. I know that already in spiking neural networks, it's important that it has to do with like how the postsynaptic action potential and the presynaptic action potential interact, right? I know that. I know that I've heard inhibitory synapses, excitatory synapses. And so I'm reading this and I know that these are all going to connect. I haven't put the connection 100% together. But this is here for me now, and it's here for it to float around in my brain. And what happens is that as I read something else, things start to sort of click together for me. And so I think it's good still to have the information out to see. And that's why I'm the kind of person who exposes myself to a lot of information that I don't understand everything all the time. But as I read more, things start to connect. Or sometimes as like the days float by, sometimes things will just click for me like a few days later. So again, I don't get down on myself when I don't understand something, because I think that when you put that stress on your mind of you have to understand everything and you're stressed out about the fact that you don't understand everything, you're not going to make the connections. Because something I learned from my own experience is when you're stressed out, you just can't absorb things on like a deep level. So it's more about just taking it like being relaxed, just making sure that you are getting information that interests you, that is important to what you're reading. I think I've actually become a better learner outside of school because because I'm not putting pressure on myself to understand every detail right away and use it right away. I think that's one thing that I never liked about learning in school, is that there's such intense pressure to internalize all this information at the same speed of other people. But I feel like I'm actually learning faster outside of school because I don't have the pressure to learn everything, and I'm not stressed out when I'm learning. I'm just relaxed and enjoying my learning. And I feel like things just click for me because I was never a science person. I was never a math person, but all of a sudden I've just finding myself to be a science and math person because it's something that I feel like I'm leading myself through this project. Very often I felt like I wanted to really spend a lot more time on this or that topic, or I wanted to understand something conceptually in a deeper way. And I felt like I really just had to follow like a really set path in how I learned. And I think that because of that, I felt shut down. Okay, I paused my Pomodoro. I have about 20 minutes left in it. It's now 9 p.m. and I finished that second text. So I feel like for me, self-learning, I am not I'm not prioritizing quantity, I'm prioritizing quality. And I'm prioritizing how much I learn, and I feel like I've covered a lot more ground that way because it's more about making sure I'm making really sort of accurate and sort of well-focused moves, and like asking the right questions to get to the right place versus I need to read everything and I need to know everything. So I learned a lot today. What I'm going to do for the last 20 minutes is I think that I'm going to try to just write down everything that I've learned today and what's important about it for these last 20 minutes, and then I'll come back here. Okay, this is all written by hand. Look. So let me read you what I wrote. I'm out of breath. Machine learning consists of two types of learning, supervised and unsupervised. SNNs, or spiking neural networks, are a type of biologically plausible learning that can be unsupervised. They represent info through spikes, same as biologically we represent info through spikes. They learn through a paradigm of plasticity, like biologically brains learn through synaptic plasticity. Unsupervised spiking neural networks learn locally, which means a synapse update based on what is going on around them, not the whole network. This is how the brain works for the most part. It knows, I'm just going to say this out loud, it basically knows what's firing around it rather than knowing like this really intense deep learning thing. The name of this learning is called spike timing dependent plasticity. Neural weights update depending on the temporal correlation between spikes without guiding signals. Synaptic connection is strengthened when postsynaptic neurons fire after the presynaptic neuron and connection is weakened. If postsynaptic neurons fire before presynaptic neurons. It's good that I use this type of learning in my neural network because it is similar to how we believe the hippocampus works, particularly in memory encoding, which is what my project is about. My network is also not a standard deep neural network, so local learning makes sense in my context. Lastly, sharp wave ripples, which I'm studying, involve fast, temporally coordinated spikes, so STPD matters in that context, okay? I probably could have gotten ChatGPT to write all this for me. Now, why do I think it's important that I did not? I think that this is what I learned for my project, but I also learned a lot of residual information about neural networks, the history of neural networks, and just a lot more information about like how things are trained that I haven't written here. I also think that I just feel a certain confidence in what I've written. I feel like I just got like a deeper sort of understanding of how these things work and how they sort of correlate to other concepts. If I just asked ChatGPT to basically write this for me, I'd be like, okay, but I wouldn't know for sure that I knew why ChatGPT was telling me what it was telling me. So that's why I used ChatGPT today to basically just answer any really, really important questions or like I asked it specifically about my project, but I just try not to use it too much, not only so that I can feel confident in what I'm saying, but also because I
want to not overly use ChatGPT, and it takes a lot of energetic sort of it's very draining energetically. Actually, interestingly, I learned about that when I read as well. Like I learned that actually the type of neural network that I'm going to be using uses significantly less power than these kinds of deep learning algorithms. So I learned a lot, a lot, a lot. Now, in the past, I would feel bad about not working past 3 hours, but now that I'm out of school, I have the luxury of basically being like, you know what? I feel like when the thing that used to bother me is I used to feel like I had to be working like 8 straight hours or something to get all of my work done. And it's like, I feel like I hit a peak where I'm like, I have just deeply learned so much. And it's like now, if I keep shoving information in my mind, I feel like it's not going to be very accurately, like, sort of understood, comprehended, and just sort of, it's not going to sit well. So I feel like I just hit my peak today of like, I learned really intensely about a topic for like a good amount of time. Um, and now I feel confident about that, and I'd rather just let that sort of soak in and then just spend some more time tomorrow on a new concept. So yeah, I think I'm gonna make a video tomorrow as well, but I just felt like I hit my peak, so I'm done for the day. It's like 10 p.m. right now as well. I didn't notice it was getting so late. So that is day in my life, self-learning, and basically my tips for how to self-learn.